Apart from being used in large parts of urban slums in India and in rural areas in large swaths across the country, asbestos cement roofing is also used in schools in India. Asbestos cement roofing is made out of chrysotile asbestos, which is mined out of the ground, and this is considered a hazardous material in many countries across the world for a simple reason that it causes lung diseases like lung cancer and a very serious disease called mesothelioma. Today, we look at asbestos cement roofing, India's toxic roof. We talk to experts from architecture, medical science, and material and geology.
Are there things which are equally good, if not better, than asbestos roofing? So I would say yes, there are many things which are much better than asbestos. Asbestos is a has-been, if you can say. At one time it was thought to be something very good and solving many problems, but after that we have become wiser. So we have become much more aware of the harm which it does.
Single fiber. Indeed, you have found that asbestos fibers are being released from these buildings. Then the asbestos fibers needs to be inhaled into the lungs, and if it goes into the lung, definitely it is harmful.
Cement asbestos sheet or other materials that are where the fibers are bound, that the asbestos fibers can never come out, is blatantly false. They do.
Asbestos cement sheet is made out of asbestos fibers or chrysotile fibers which are mined from the ground, and these are mixed with cement, fly ash, and other binders to create corrugated roofing, which has been used for a very long time across the country.
Every fiber is the same in asbestos. So asbestos fiber, whatever name you're going to call it, will cause this, lung cancer and mesothelioma.
If a building has a cement asbestos roof, over time fibers are released. We know that they're released into the air, we know that they're released into the water, and we know that derivative asbestos can end up in the soil. So we know that there's contamination derived from cement asbestos sheet roofs in the air, in the water, in the soil that we breathe, that we walk on, and then we drink.
There is no safe exposure to asbestos. Even if there is a single fiber which goes into your lungs, it will lead to. Initially, it could lead to a parenchymal asbestos disease, but many times, it doesn't even lead to parenchymal asbestos disease. Directly, it leads to either lung cancer or mesothelioma straight away, even just single fiber.
Found in evaluating cement asbestos boards from all over the world is that yes, they can vary in their content. They can be from a fraction of a percent to 10, 20, 30% asbestos by weight, but that has nothing to do with whether or not that will erode over time and release asbestos fibers into the air. They all do. We know this by taking air samples. Anything that has detectable asbestos by light microscopy that is a part of a cement asbestos board is going to release fibers over time. The question is not if, but when. But we've accelerated this process by taking the asbestos out of the ground, homogenizing it into cement asbestos sheet that is then exposed directly to the sun and the wind and the water. We are accelerating the process by making it more accessible, not less. The assertion that the cement binds all the asbestos fibers is not true. It does not do that. In fact, what we use as cement more often than not is calcium carbonate based. calcium carbonate disseminates in water, especially if it's acidic water. You heard of acid rain. When the water hits this, and even the moss grows on the roof, it's breaking it up and breaking it up. It's biodegrading. It's degrading in the normal process of the hydrologic cycle, the aeolian cycle. We're ending up with these fibers that are getting broken away, and we can see this under the microscope. Cement, asbestos, and other materials have binders, agents that somehow glue and glom the fibers together to where they would never get released. It is true, especially in the short term, that the binders and other materials like cement will reduce the amount of fibers. There's still going to be asbestos released, and we're talking about a material that contains abundant amounts of asbestos fibers that is going to degrade naturally over time when exposed to the elements. Uh, and we actually see that this degradation process releases asbestos into the air. So the assertion that cement asbestos sheet or other materials that are where the fibers are bound, uh, that the asbestos fibers can never come out is blatantly false. They do. Because we were trying to determine the condition of building materials many years ago and divided into those we needed that we were in crisis about and those that we were not, we came up with this idea that if you could crush it with your hand, it's friable and therefore it's bad and more likely to release fibers. That's true. However, if it's not friable and you can't crush it with hand pressure, it's called non-friable. That does not mean that it doesn't release fibers, especially if it's over time and it is not sealed in any way and it's exposed to the elements like.
I have seen a person whom I've diagnosed asbestosis, and within 1 year, the person has developed lung cancer. In fact, I've reported this in one British medical journal on this particular case. But in generally, it takes about 40, 50 years, 60 years for development of mesothelioma after an initial exposure.
The idea that certain percentages relate directly to whether or not there's a human health effect is not accurate. If something contains 1% asbestos, that means every gram of it has billions of asbestos fibers. If it has 10%, perhaps it has trillions or tens of trillions. Now, if we're talking about the asbestos that makes us sick, we're talking about the individual fibers. 10,000 fibers inhaled per day is not small. And 10,000 fibers per day is something that you can and will inhale if you are surrounded by degrading cement asbestos sheet. The chrysotile will come off of any material that contains detectable asbestos at the 1% level or higher. There is no doubt about that. We've done many studies that have shown materials that contain even less than 1% can, in the right conditions, create immense exposure to asbestos by people that are manipulating it or the people that are around it as it degrades. The EPA also did studies in California where there was low levels of asbestos concentration in soil, where the majority of the samples came back no asbestos detected. But when they actually did simulations called activity-based monitoring, where they simulated children on bicycles or people walking along while they had air samples, all had detectable levels of asbestos. And we're talking about detectable levels of asbestos, that's not acceptable. And that's why we regulated the air that children breathe by the HERE standard as anything above our detection limit is unacceptable. We cannot have any detectable asbestos in the air that our children breathe. So we must use the most powerful microscopes to see the finest fibers in order to say that an area is safe to breathe. the areas where you have materials like bulk asbestos materials, cement asbestos sheet, even if it's bound, um, soil in the earth, the water, the soil, that's much less than 1% overall by weight, has been repeatedly shown to generate significant airborne concentrations.
The idea that something which has been close to the people, in the sense that people have been traditionally using it, have been using it over a long time, still continue to use it, is a very big support to that material. And one of those material is terracotta, which is made out of local earth. So in different places in the country we have been using tiles made of terracotta. In north of India there are other types of clay tiles which are being used. So these are options which are climate friendly, and they are very easily maintainable, replaceable, and easy to install in the first place. They do everything, and they are also cheap.